Hello, transportation class. Wow, is it week 5 already? Boy, it sure seems like it's gone really fast for us, hasn't it? But I bet it's been a great experience for you. And as I can tell, you all are really enjoying the topics that we were discussing. It's kind of funny how it's just so timely regarding transportation, but there's something that affects our everyday lives. And I see in the future it's even going to be even more so for our children and our children's children. Let's look at about a few things I want you to think about as we get into week 5. Week 5 will actually be studying 2 chapters within 1 week. Chapter 5, which deals with motor carriers, and Chapter 6, which deals with railroads. I think that these chapters are very interesting because even at the very beginning of this book, we just talked about the major issues that affect the supply chain. But what we're getting into with these 2 chapters, I think, is the meat and potatoes of the whole issue. Transportation within supply chain. That's what I want you to focus on. Sometimes I think we can get lost in all the ins and outs of the other elements of the supply chain. But as we go further into these chapters, we need to start thinking more specifically in regards to the types of transportation and how that affects our supply chain. But we think about the motor carriers and railroads, and guess what? How about the airways as well? We don't think about that. At least I don't sometimes. I have to stop and think about that airways are a very important part of the transportation system. But that will be for another chapter's lecture. I want you to think about week 5, some of the things to be thinking about assignment-wise. Not only will you be working on the week 5 assignments, please be aware of that it's going to be time for you to kind of be putting the finishing touches up on your research paper. Remember, it is due I believe the 26th of April, which is our last Monday of the week. You've got to realize that these deadlines with the online classes do finish 1 week before regular classes do. And that 1 week is also your finals week. So you will actually be finishing up pretty fast. So just keep up with everything. If you have a question, you know how to get in touch with me. But just again, be sure to check in to the class every week. Every other day is good. Every day is fine. That's okay as well. Just keep up with everything to refresh yourself. One of the major things I do want to talk about on week 5, motor carriers, chapter 5, is understanding how the development of the motor carriers and their contributions to the U.S. economy. These are just some of the other learning objectives, as well as be aware of the current issues facing the motor carrier industry. Think about this. When the economy goes down, so does what? Spending. Okay, so if spending goes down, then there's going to be less need for those big 18-wheelers to be going out on the highway as often as they were transporting things. But if you go down I-30 or any other interstate system near where you live, you're going to probably think, well, the economy probably is doing pretty good. But if you get into and start taking data from the pre-recession years, before the economy went into its recession, and compared it to today, I bet you are going to see some stark contrast in numbers. So maybe this, again, is not an assignment, but do a Google search and see if you can be able to compare that information. You know, there's firms that do that every day. They just compare the statistics from year to year to be able to give us good economic data to go by. So that's kind of the neat thing with motor carriers. And we also know that motor carriers is more than just the big old 18-wheelers coming down the highway. Box trucks, all kinds of tankers. So we know, again, this is a topic that is pretty much common sense, something we live every day and that we see, but it's neat to kind of break it down and figure out how it just really does affect the supply chain and our everyday lives as well. So that's what motor carriers, the main things I want you to take away from that chapter is just to understand that a lot of the companies, again, the development of motor carriers is crucial to the U.S. economy. A couple of things I want y'all to study. When you go over to page 164 in your textbook, I want you to be sure that you look at figure 5-1, inner city trucking, the tons and the miles, as well as figure 5-2. This is all on page 164 and 165 of your textbook. I would like for you to study those graphs and just kind of think about that per ton. It breaks it down in how much business is being done per ton per motor carrier. So very interesting little tidbits for you. Another thing I want y'all to look at is think about the number of carriers that are in the United States. oh wow, there's probably thousands and thousands of motor carrier companies. We do know that. We see examples. We may even work for companies like that. Think about this. There are 3 different types, and as you go through and study, I just want y'all to be sure that you know that there's different types of carriers, ITL, LTL. These are the major vocabulary terms that will be available to you. And think also the marketing structure, how the market structure plays a role in motor carriers, as well as things like equipment. And then finally, I want y'all to look at the very end of the chapter. Talks about the financial stability that's a concern for motor carriers. So can they make enough money to stay in business? So those are just there's more points that's included in this chapter, but just some things I want you to think about in summary. Also, this week, your case problem is called Hardy Transportation, and I think it's a very interesting case problem that's located on page 192. In your Week 5 assignment folder on Blackboard, you will find the assignment directions for Hardy Transportation. I will not go over it right now. I won't give it away, but you're going to be doing this assignment with a little twist, so I hope you enjoy it. So again, just beware, read the chapter 5, motor carriers, as well as do the chapter 5 study questions. And there's one assignment activity for this week, Hardy Transportation. All those directions are there for you in that Week 5 folder. And I hope that you have a great week. You have any questions, you can always email me or text me on the Remind app if you've joined our class. If you haven't do that, please get in touch with me. I'll send you the invite. Again, have a great week, and I hope you enjoy reading about chapter 5.